And as you mentioned, you're a very practical person. And as for all that I studied in constellations, is very fact-based, reality-based, and not speculation or abstractions. And so at the same time, just like you mentioned that Peter Orban would develop his astrology work in constellations later on, I understand that Berth Hellinger also had sort of three stages in his own growth as he understood the family constellation tool in the field, to the point where towards the end he was much more broad in the spiritual aspects of it, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So I wonder if you've experienced something similar in your trajectory, or as an artist, you sort of bring that spiritual element to it as well.
Yeah, for me, it really remains, and again, that in itself keeps developing as we all grow and get older. But for me, I explain it to myself, or I function within this energy field, that I'm really, that to me, in a, if you want to call it spiritual manner, to me, that is my guide in that sense. So I really deeply trust the energy fields that I'm working within. And what that practically means, again, because I'm more practical, getting it kind of down to earth a little bit for us, and myself, is that it's about listening. So to me, a key element, which actually helped me almost understand on a soul level these two types of work, the family constellation work and my artwork, was the practice of deep listening. And this is a developed practice by the great composer Paulina Oliveros, which I kind of ran into. As many things happen in my life, they just kind of come find me. And I was very fortunate to do a training. Paulina is no longer with us, but I was training with her students, kind of her first students and friends who are now running the training program. And this type of practice really is all about, and this was also over the height of the pandemic when we were all online only. So it was actually really helpful to have something that kind of kept me going and teaching me in different ways of how to be in this very intense moment. Right. So the practice it's all about, we're listening beyond. And that's actually exactly what we're doing in constellation work. And this almost practice, or almost in a way tool, gave me, for the first time, a very clear image of, oh, this is actually what's happening. We're actually just deep listening to what's happening in the moment.
Is there like an example that you could share with us on what that would mean?
Yeah.
Like in a practical moment.
Yeah. So basically, in constellation work, we always work with an issue at hand. So a client would come in with a very specific issue. We always say, ideally, the more specific, not right. necessarily the better, but like, let's have a clear issue that you want to work on. Sometimes I'm a little bit more open here, because also a lot of people, I work a lot with people with immigration background, et cetera. And so language to me, and also English not being my first language, I'm very sensitive towards that. So sometimes words are not always the running force, and in fact are never in many ways. So I sometimes give a bit more space for that if we have a hard time wording things. But that being said, as much as clear possible issue at hand. And then through that, we actually we open the constellation and enter into the system. So what I'm doing, as let's say the intake is taking place, so that would be where the client is stating their issue, I am listening, of course, to what they're saying, but my actual job is to listen beyond what they're saying. And what that is, and this is where the energy field is getting established, really, as they are sharing their issue, as we are all together in this circular space, or wherever, however we're gathering, one-on-one, it's the same thing, yeah. Is that the field gets established, and it allows me to listen. When I'm listening beyond, I'm listening into the person's system, if I have the permission. Yeah.
This is why it's when people come and say, I want to work on an issue regarding my aunt and I want her to change, like you start sort of bringing other people, but you're not really focusing on an issue of your own, meaning within your own control. You start bringing other people, and then sometimes it's hard to continue working because you really don't have that person's permission, right? Is that something you could elaborate on?
So you mean you don't have the person's permission as the seeker, the person asking the issue?
Yeah, like the person that's sort of giving the interview, and their issue sometimes is totally related to like another person.
Right.
You kind of want that person to change. I don't know if I'm expressing myself clearly, but like it's that distinction between when you have permission to enter into that field versus when somebody is wanting you to work on the other person's field.
Mm-hmm.
Present.
That's a very important aspect you're bringing up, because I get this a lot. So we cannot ever work for somebody else. Yeah. So
Right.
if we need to bring something in regards to our stuckness, and I'm not talking about, I mean, I had a neighbor for a while with a very loud dog. I still do, but it's gotten a little better. But like, it's not issues like I have barely any sleep. This might totally affect me, but it's like, this is really annoying. It's more, I'm really talking about existential matters that we
Right.
are aware of or not. But like, this is now my 15th relationship in the past 3 years. What's going on? Those kind of things where we kind of helpless in the sense of like, what is behind that? What's the force behind that? What's happening? Very often then we find some systemic entanglements. And that is now where we come in as constellation facilitators to help untangle certain things with the help of the guiding field. The knowing field, how Hellinger calls it. And so we can't work for our aunt, we can't work for our brother, we can't work for our XYZ, right? For our parents, this is a big one. But what you can do is you work for yourself and you work for your healing, and really in a practical way for your relationship with that person, right?
Right. You in relation to that person, right?
Correct. And I keep saying this also, I've talked about this on other podcasts as well a little bit, but I think it's so key, and we sometimes forget to see it that way as in the constellation world. I think what we're really working with is, how is my mother inside of me, right? How is my father inside of me? That is why we have even access to your system, because you hear and you are posing a question, and with that we can work, because we're doing kind of a soul check. Yeah, we're opening from you. We see, if we now constellate and kind of bring we say in German, our soul image. Yeah, we bring that in front of us, and we set that up in the space. We're really just setting up our soul image, really. Of course, always in regards and in relation to the issue that is brought in. Yeah, that's important. But once that is put into the space, then we can see, oh wow, how is my mother? I thought she was, cheery and happy. She looks really sad, and just as an example. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like you're bringing the issue into the field to work on. It has really not much to do with the actual person like your mother, but your own image of your mother inside of you, right?
Which is very often it is completely intertwined, but sometimes we just see things that we wouldn't otherwise, right? That are, maybe our mother is very, very good at keeping a straight face, right? Maybe that was her whole entanglement, was all her life to keep a very straight face. And we think, oh, my mom is fine. Like, I'm feeling something sometimes, but I think she's okay. But then you look at it, you actually see all of a sudden her entanglement in her system. That is also, in extension, your system, right? And that's why we have access to it.